team as well. And so that we're going through this all together, all at the same time. I haven't got a playbook on this; it hasn't been written yet. So let's all learn together from it. So no, that's great answer. Thank you for that. He's got a good one here. So it's a quick question, but it might test your memory banks.
Are you good at playing Monopoly because of your job?
This first one. Okay, you're going to go for the Monopoly one. Are you good at playing Monopoly because of all the houses you've got?
Yeah, I've got better. I've figured out with Monopoly that you really need to buy up the expensive property. But that's not quite like Mark and I started. We bought up all the cheap stuff in Peterborough. But in Monopoly, it's all about who gets Mayfair, Park Lane and everything else. So I'd say I've figured that out, yeah. But it's kind of the opposite of how our property investing went.
So one of the questions was, where was the first place that you bought a house? And do you still own it?
Yeah, the first one I bought is next to my dad's old pub in Peterborough. On I Road, and yeah, I still own it. I don't think I've sold more than 5 properties. Just don't sell them and just keep them. Yeah, yep. Keep getting the income.
Fantastic. Obviously, this podcast here is involving children, and Izzy's got some of her friends that listen, and I think I can hear maybe some kids in the background there as well, which is wonderful. I've got an interesting question here that sort of, it's difficult being in the position that you're in and I'm in to a degree as well, where we have a more privileged life than maybe for our children have more of a privileged life than maybe we had. What hard lessons would you want your children to learn, and why?
Okay, so I've thought a lot about parenting, and I've had stages where I've been driven in my parenting style. And I've had stages where I've just completely let them discover for themselves. And I'm definitely no parenting guru. I'm, like you said, to use your word before, there's no playbook on it. So I say this with humility, and only because you asked me. I'm not touting myself to be a parenting guru. But what I would say is, I feel like good parenting is supporting your children to discover what the world is really like, so that they're armed as quickly as possible to deal with what the world is really like. And too much support or too much challenge is probably going to give them an imbalanced view. So if you're pretty privileged, you've got a good upbringing and your children are raised in a good environment, you probably got to give them some hardship, send them on some camps, get them to figure some stuff out for themselves, throw them a bit more challenge. If you're growing up in real poverty, hopefully you've got to try and give them a bit of support and try and get them to taste maybe some of the more rewards of life, if you can. You can't always, of course. I also think, and you generally tend to find this with human beings as well, is you can tell people things till you're blue in the face, but they usually learn through experience. Now, of course, mentorship guidance, courses, etc., as an adult can help you leverage the mistakes of others, stand on the shoulders of giants, have someone else blaze the trail and shorten the ROI of time. And increase the ROI of money. But when it comes to kids, usually they don't listen to their parents and they've got to end up going through it themselves. So if you can stop telling them what to do and start putting them in an environment where they can learn what to do for themselves, I think you're going to be winning. I've told my kids to not lean back on their bar stools in the kitchen 250 times, and then my daughter just fell off it and smashed her chin onto the work surface. And my wife went in and was all upset and blah blah blah, and I was quite happy because I thought she won't do that again now, and I don't have to tell her because I've told her 1,000 times. Now, by the way, people have told me 1,000 times to get some lessons, and I haven't got it until I've made a boo boo. That tends to be human beings. Now, what I would say is the reverse of that is wisdom. So if you can listen to people, learn from everyone, be humble enough to try and figure out how you can improve your life through other people and listen to them and not have to wait until you get the mistake yourself, then I think you're partway there to wisdom. One thing I always did want to do with my kids, and I still do, but we're just going through this phase of working out what that is I want to give my kids the gift of becoming really good at something. Because I think the world rewards you for being great at something, not quite good at 5 things. So I'd really like to give my kids the opportunity to be really great at something. Bobby's really great at golf, like really great. But at the moment, we're in this middle ground where a lot of the drive of that was coming from me. And then I backed off because it's got to come from him. And we're just trying to figure out if it will come from him. But each time I spot my children are quite good at something, like my daughter's a bit of an actress, a bit of a diva. So we're going to send her to drama classes. She likes to sing, we'll send her to a singing class. And Bobby shows interest in music, we'll let him play the drums. So trying to figure out what they seem to like and are inspired by, and then giving them the chance to get good at that. That's something I want to do for my children, if possible.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I was listening to your money podcast through lockdown when you were talking to children specifically, during the week, certain parts there. And one of the things was actually getting another mentor to talk to your own children, because often they won't listen to you, but they would listen to somebody else that would to give them the same advice that you would give them maybe, but just from a different voice, which I think is great as well.
Yeah, like
2 more questions.
An uncle or an aunt or a godparent. I think that's it. Because your children usually don't speak to their teachers like they speak to you, i.e. they're more polite to their teachers than they are to you. So yeah, using someone who they admire and trust and look up to. I remember my dad taught me pool through a guy called Harry Osborne. So he was the best at pool in the pub. And when I was 7 or 8 years old, instead of dad teaching me pool, I wouldn't have listened to him. Dad got Harry to teach me pool, and I really looked up to Harry, and I got really good at pool really quickly. I was hustling all the people in the pub from a very young age. So that was a smart move. Getting someone else to teach the lessons you want to teach them could work if they're good at it.
Absolutely. No, that's fantastic. Just a couple more questions from me, and then one from Izzy as well, which is a bit of a question that you kind of asked other people, but I'll ask one of mine first and then go on to Izzy's. What are you doing right now to improve your leadership skills?
I'm trying to continually understand my areas of strength and weakness, and work on my strengths and outsource my weaknesses, and be more honest about my strengths and weaknesses. That's a continual journey, I think. I always ask myself, what's the best value I can give to my company, my partners? You've always got to ask that, because the value you were given last year might not be the same value you need to give this year. Your key result areas, your income generating tasks, what's the best use of your time, and what's the best value you can give? And then just constantly focusing on my vision, which is to help as many people across the planet get a better financial education and start and scale their business, and make sure that everything I'm doing is towards that vision. And then the fourth thing is supporting my business partner, MD, and the people I work with. That's another great thing about leadership, by the way, which people don't talk about. People perceive leadership as hierarchy, where you're the leader and they support you. But actually, if you take a support role to support your team, you'll elevate them the quickest, and they'll step up to become leaders. So I guess I'm trying to support the key members of my team to help them become better leaders as well. They're the 4 things probably I'm working on.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, Rob. Izzy, all these questions that Izzy's come up with today are her own questions, so especially this last one as well. So go on, Izzy. What did you want to ask Rob?
How much money have you earned?
That's a tricky one. In sales, in our 2 training companies, we've done well in excess of 100 million. I don't know if our property portfolios would match that. If you add the capital value of the asset and the income, it might not. It's got to be somewhere near that as well. And then, of course, there's the books. I think I've got about 8 different income streams. One thing I will say, Izzy, and you want to make sure that you follow this rule, because I'm the sort of person that just tells everyone everything. I'm too trusting, and I say too much. And sometimes that's a nice trait in someone, but sometimes I end up saying something, and then my MD or my business partner or someone will go, Rob, why did you say that? So I've been sworn to secrecy by my MD, by my accountant, by my tax advisor, never share your net worth. Never. So, I mean, everyone knows I'm a millionaire and that's easily provable. But just how many millions I have, I won't be revealing that on a podcast. And if I did, my accountant would immediately be telling me off, as would my business partner.
Brilliant. You can't ask. You can't ask a girl for trying. So, but there we go. Good stuff, Rob. Last question from me really is: would you come back on our podcast in a year's time as a special guest?
I definitely wouldn't say no. I suppose it depends how much you pay me.
Ooh, there we go. Some more stars coming your way.
Yes, it's a kind invitation. And hey, look, reach out a bit nearer the time and let's see what we can do. But I'm sure we can make something happen. Why not?
Fantastic. That's great. So, Rob, just list off a couple of things of how people can get hold of you from people listening to you for the first time from my side of things.
Sure. So I have a podcast called The Disruptive Entrepreneur. You can find that anywhere. You can find me on all social media channels, either Rob Moore, MOORE, or Rob Moore Progressive. I've written loads of books, so you can find me on Amazon and Audible. So Money, Life, Leverage, Start Now, Get Perfect Later, probably my three most more well-known ones. I do engage with all my followers and subscribers on my social channels. So you can comment on videos and I'll likely reply. I do read messages. I can't reply to them all because there's too many, but I'm pretty active and engaged. And I'd love to hear from you. And then my website, robmoore.com. My foundation is on there if you want to help support, helping us help underprivileged and young entrepreneurs start and scale their business and get a better financial education.
Absolutely fantastic. And you can find us under Amazing Leaders, again, under all the social media sites. So look us up and listen to some of our other podcasts as well. Rob, thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it. It's been wonderful talking to you today. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. And we will see you soon.
Thanks, Izzy.
Thanks,
everyone.